you know no two zebras have identical stripes? Or that a group of zebras is called a dazzle? You might ask, what has that got to do with today's podcast episode? Well, people with the Ehlers-Danlos Syndromes, EDS, and Hypermobility Spectrum Disorders, HSD, often identify themselves as zebras. Greetings, I'm Tej, and to be honest, I hadn't heard about Ehlers-Danlos syndromes till a couple of days ago. Today's guest, Lara Bloom, is the president and CEO of the Ehlers-Danlos Society. She's here to tell us what EDS means and why everyone needs to know what it is. Welcome to Chazuma Talks, Lara.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Lara, I did a bit of groundwork and found that the Ehlers-Danlos syndromes, EDS, are named after two doctors, Dr. Edward Lawrence Ehlers and Dr. Henry Alexander Danlos.
Yes.
They described the condition in the earlier 20th century. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the fact that the syndrome was named that late speaks a lot about it being the most misunderstood and maybe underdiagnosed syndromes. So, could you please explain the differences between Ehlers-Danlos syndromes and hypermobility spectrum disorders, and what exactly are these conditions?
Absolutely. So they are thought to be genetic connective tissue conditions. If we first look at Ehlers-Danlos syndromes, it's a group of conditions. There are currently 14 types described under the EDS umbrella. And we know the pathogenic variant, so the genetic cause behind 13 of them. And they are all rare and ultra rare. And then we have the hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which at the moment we don't know what the genetic cause of that is. And that's thought to be much more prevalent and possibly not even a rare disease, although we don't know that yet. But I think more research is happening where soon we will be able to have a little bit more understanding on the prevalence. And then you have hypermobility spectrum disorders, which are a group of conditions where obviously hypermobility is the thread. And it's not that one is more severe than the other. It's just what the clinical presentation is and the diagnostic criteria to meet. But both can make people have a big impact on their quality of life. And you could have someone with hypermobile EDS that is an acrobat and doing very well, and you can have someone with hypermobility spectrum disorder that is unable to get up from bed and needs a wheelchair. So it's a big spectrum across both the two conditions. And we also don't know yet if they truly are two conditions. And there's a lot of research going in at the moment into really trying to ascertain as to whether HSD and hypermobile EDS are one and the same thing. And again, we will hope to uncover the answers to that in the next few years.
And how common is this condition?
Well, the broad published stats are 1 in 5,000, but that's not very helpful because it, like I said, there's 14 different types. With some of them, there's only a few people in the world that have them. And with others like hypermobile, it's much more common. So we don't yet know is the honest, true answer. But across all the types, even when they're rare and ultra rare, what we do know is that they are massively mis- and underdiagnosed.
Right. And help me out here. When we say hypermobile, a person who is an acrobat is hypermobile, right? A person who is flexible is hypermobile. So, how is that a bad condition?
So it's not that it's bad, it's when the hypermobility is not benign. So most people, a lot of children, like you said, athletes, gymnasts, have a natural hypermobility which tends to not cause any problems. Now, sometimes you then see more of a syndromic picture and you don't just have hypermobility and you have other issues with skin fragility, instability, and other components to that hypermobility. So you have to look at it carefully. You're right, not everyone that's hypermobile has EDS or HSD, but we do need to make sure that nothing is being missed. And I think because there is an abundance of hypermobility where there are no issues, often it is missed.
Right. And does it afflict younger people, or is it something that is detected in younger ages or older ages?
So it is a genetic condition, so people are born with it, but when the symptoms present themselves can vary massively. So you can have a child who presents from a very young age, and we've got people in their 50s and 60s where a life event will happen, whether that's physical or emotional. Someone could have died, they could have had a car accident, they could have had an infection, and suddenly the symptoms come to the surface and they then experience the problems, and it had been laying dormant for years. So there's a couple of different ways that it can present, but hypothetically, if it's genetic, it's there from birth.
Right. I noticed the zebra behind you, and I know that I just mentioned that people with HSD and EDS identify themselves as zebras. So, could you tell our audience why that is so?
Yeah, sure. So in medical school, doctors are taught that when you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras. Think the common, not the rare. And what we're trying to do is to get healthcare professionals to think about zebras, to think about the rare. You know, it's so often underlooked, and it, someone could come in presenting with a whole multi-systemic picture, and that rare possibility is not considered. So, as you also said, a group of zebras together is called a dazzle, and we like to think we're trying to dazzle with what we're doing at the society.
Well, dazzling you are. I looked at your website and there's quite a bit of information out there. And so please tell us what your organization is doing to help create awareness and what are the programs that you run.
So, we're a global organisation caring for anyone with these conditions from all over the world, and our main strategic mission and vision is centred around the CARE acronym. So, our priorities are care, access, research, and education. And I would say the two biggest areas we look at is research and education, because that tends to then lead to the care and the access. But all four kind of come under our roof. And we do that through various things. We fund research, we facilitate the work of healthcare professionals collaborating together. We run the EDS Echo program, which is a tele-mentoring program that the idea is to move knowledge, not patients. So we are creating an environment where healthcare professionals can come and meet experts and take that knowledge back to their patients in their local area. It's proved very successful, and this year is our 5th year anniversary, so we're very proud of that. But yeah, we're just trying to break the stigma around these conditions, heal decades of neglect, because up until when we were launched in 2016, there was no funding, there was no infrastructure around for these conditions. So there was a lot that needs to be healed from that period of time, and we're only just beginning to instead of looking back, looking forward, and so it's quite an exciting time at the moment.
Let's take a break to understand what Chizuba is. Everyone at some point ponders on how this beautiful life can be made more meaningful. Maybe you're a leader trying to enhance your employees' experience at your organization. Or you already work for the community and seek volunteers with state of the art skills to strengthen your nonprofit. Whatever your situation, know that you can make a difference. Chizuba began with this very vision, a vision to facilitate every skill and every passion in the world in meeting a social need. Corporate volunteering has several benefits for both businesses and organizations. In parallel, experienced and enthusiastic volunteers join NGO workers, enabling them to serve the community more effectively. Chizuba offers everyone looking to add purpose and meaning to their lives a chance to connect or volunteer virtually with nonprofit organizations from over 100 countries around the world. Visit www.chizuba.net and explore opportunities to find meaning. Chizuba, your platform to do good. And now, back with our guest. Right. Do you have any collaborations with hospitals and institutes or universities?
Yes, we do. We've partnered with the Broad Institute in Boston, working on the hedge study, for example. And we've got a couple of other research studies that we've partnered with as well, one in the UK, in various institutions all around the world, where either we have directly given money and they have embarked on a study themselves, or we are collaborating directly with them. So yes, it's an exciting time. We funded $2 million to try and find what that genetic cause is behind hypermobile EDS. And so we hope those answers will come soon.
Right. And what what do you look forward to? I mean, you say these are exciting times. There's a lot of research going on in terms of help to people who need it most. Okay, I mean, there would be people who are under resourced. How will your organization help such people?
Well, I mean, there's so much help needed, isn't there? So there are also different levels of help. We don't live in an inequitable world. People in India, Africa, China, Eastern Europe are going to have very different needs to the West. Um, and that's very difficult to navigate because whereas people in the US may complain that they have to cross a state to see an expert, in other countries there's not any experts at all. So there's a delay to diagnosis that we're seeing across the world. An average year, 10 to 12 years it takes to get diagnosed at the moment. So we need to improve diagnosis times. We need to improve education so that more and more doctors are aware of it and how to treat it. And we need to develop research so we can start to think about therapeutics and treatment. And that is all beginning to happen now.
Right. So, in terms of support for your organization, in terms of volunteers, what kind of help do you need? And do you also find virtual volunteering useful?
So yes, I mean, I think COVID threw us all into a virtual hybrid setting, and we definitely do a lot. Pretty much all of our events we offer virtually as well. Echo is a virtual model as well, so that's a strength. I think more than anything, what we need right now is funding because we are a very underfunded condition. As I said, there had not been research at all up until the last few years. So funding is what we need, most importantly, to start to answer all those questions.
Right. Funding is something that all nonprofits need. I'm talking to my 210th nonprofit today, and
Wow.
every single one of them has said that funding is required. But well, I wish I could help in making some connections for you, and let's see how that funding part goes. Lastly, Lara, tell me, in terms of severity, how severe is this condition and does it get worse?
So there is a vast spectrum again. We've firstly got the different types of EDS. So something like vascular EDS can reduce life expectancy quite a bit. And we see tragic cases of children, teenagers, young adults passing away from aneurysms, things like that. And then you've got, within the types a spectrum. So we've heard of people with vascular EDS living to their 70s, but some passing away very, very young. So it's a big spectrum. Within hypermobile EDS, it tends to be more complications with feeding tubes, pain, suicide, um, and issues like that. Some mast cell anaphylaxis, things like that. Rather than the condition itself, it's the comorbidities that come with it. And it can be very severe, it can be very life limiting, it can be life impacting. And there are people that rely on feeding tubes, on opioids, on wheelchairs, on splints and braces, and are unable to work and are unable to, hold down relationships, and it's very difficult. It's very, very difficult. So I think because it's so multi-systemic, it can present so many different issues, and that delay to diagnosis does not help.
Yeah. One more question for people who are not aware of the syndrome, and what are the symptoms that they should be on the lookout for, Because you see, I feel flexibility is looked upon as being a good thing, right?
Hmm.
I mean, you're able to bend, you're able to, you know, keep your body flexible. But when is too much? And how does somebody identify that, okay, it's time to go to a doctor? I know
I
this is case
think,
specific also. Yes.
yeah, I think it will be um, when that hypermobility and that instability leads to dislocations and subluxations and chronic pain. That is when it's a problem. Pain fundamentally that comes with that hypermobility. And then all the comorbidities, so issues with your gut, with your immune system, with allergies, with heart rate, with blood pressure, things like that. But I think ultimately it's usually chronic pain, chronic fatigue that people realize that this isn't normal.
Forgive me if I'm being a little ignorant here, but I had a friend whose shoulder used to be dislocated and she used to just pick it up and fix it back. Is that also part of a symptom?
It could be, or she could have a bad shoulder. So if it's in isolation, it could just be a problem with that joint. If it was a problem with all her joints, then yeah, she should definitely be looked at.
Right. Because I found it very odd that she could fix it herself and she said, oh, it's nothing, this keeps happening. And it was very unusual for me to see that.
Yeah, and it would be worth speaking to a doctor.
Right. Lara, please tell us how can somebody help you, and please tell us your website and your social handles here.
Sure, so you can find us at www.ehlers, which is EHLERS hyphen Danlos, DANLOS.com. And all of our information is there. We're on social media at ehlers.danlos. You can also find me at lara.bloom on there. And the best thing you can do to help is tell people about what these conditions are, help us to get the knowledge out there and to get to a point where you say that you have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, people don't say, "What's that?"
Correct. Yes. Well, thank you so much, Lara, for shedding light on this condition. This is something that really needs to be spoken of because it's very rare and people assume that it is just normal in some cases. If there's anyone listening to this episode, please comment in the comment section and what can be done about this. And Lara is here to explain and help us out in case of any doubts. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to raise awareness.